I do want to talk about the entire market and the situation of Pete Alonso. We can all agree that this polar bear market, it's polar plunging right now, and it's collapsing right in front of him. Pretty much of the impression of what his market has looked like. This is something that I feel like we've pretty much repeated a lot as he continued to struggle and not be himself in 2024. Jeff Passan on ESPN a few days ago talked about teams being hesitant to give Alonso a long-term deal, but they do see great value in adding him for the next few years. As for Mark Feinstein of MLB.com, he did get a AL executive source who is anonymous. Alonso is a complicated player. He is in his 30s, and he's a right-handed first baseman who is good, but probably had his best year already, referring to 2019 or 2022. He's not a defender. He's not an athlete, but he has no issue with the spotlight. He hits homers and hits them in big spots. He is a tough one, but as for all of these other guys on this first baseman market, it's pretty much been clearing out and the options are dwindling as to where, pretty much falling into the Mets' lap as of right now. Christian Walker signed with the Astros for 3 years, $60 million. Paul Goldschmidt went to the Yankees, somebody that was a team that was attached to Alonso for a second. Carlos Santana, after the D-backs acquired Josh Naylor from the Guardians, went back to the Guardians. I think this is his third stint with the franchise, 1 year, $12 million. And of course, the Nationals, who are also in that market and seem to be interested in Alonso, went the other way and went for Nathaniel Lau. As for the Rangers and their first base situation, it seems like they are pushing Jake Berger, who they acquired through trade from the Marlins, to first base, and then, of course, in the DH spot, bringing in Jock Peterson. Before the 2023 trade deadline, the Mets offered 7 years, $158 million to Alonso. He rejected that, fired his agent, and then hired Scott Boras after the regular season ended. The Mets and Alonso did have some preliminary talks about extension. They didn't get really anywhere close enough on AAV, which I'm pretty sure everybody knows his value by now in AAV, but far away on contract term. Throughout the entire year, which is understandable, he stated disinterest to negotiate during the 2024 season, with him being franchise piece that he has been, giving him the qualifying offer as we all expected, with what they have done with a lot of their homegrown guys. He received it. He rejected it. It was $21.05 million, and now he is on the open market. Now, of course, when you look at it in hindsight, in terms of the market, in terms of everything that you get from Pete Alonso, we've seen a little bit of a decline, let's just say, in his skills a little bit from the 2019 year, maybe the 2022 year. It's soured a little bit in regards to his future here. People have talked about it. It's been a topic of discussion. Andrew, I'll go to you here. You've been one of the first guys to talk about it many, many times, about Alonso's market and the interest around how people view him in this fan base, to how he's viewed from the outside. 7 years, $158 million were on the table. I think at this current moment, I think it's easy to say Pete Alonso played himself. He screwed up.
Look what happened. You said Scott Boras got in your head, and he said, well, you're a polar bear. You're going to get $200 million. Look at people on Twitter. They think you're a $200 million player. And in reality, slapped him straight in the face. Teams don't pay fat, unathletic, no tool besides hitting the ball over the fence. And now you're going to have to crawl back to the New York Mets. Who could have seen this coming? The market is what the market is. And Matt Olson, you're not better than Matt Olson. You're not better than Freddie Freeman. You weren't getting. He's the man. He's the polar bear. And he's going to think about the kids and he's all the people that bought his jersey. It's the benefit, guys. This was the best case scenario for the Mets. He went out and tested the market. Everyone was terrified. Oh, it's the Cubs. Oh, the Yankees are going to pay him. And all they've done have gone to less, older, shittier version and said, Pete, no thank you. And he's going to come back for 60 cents on the dollar. He might get 4 years. I would be shocked if he comes back and gets anything over 115. I would be genuinely shocked. I haven't said 100 million, but I'll be nice because maybe it's a Bellinger type-esque deal where it's front-loaded, high AAV in the first year with an opt-out, a little bit of comfortability on the back end of the deal, and he's making a little bit of money. But the fact that, again, he was going to go out here and $200 million, 250. But again, let's play this game. Isn't there a first baseman next offseason who's licking his lips but has more tools than Pete Alonso? And that guy, he's going to get money. But we're going to say, Mets fans are going to say, hey, Pete Alonso's been better than Vlad Guerrero. He never was. But hey, he hits more homers. And look what's going to happen. Pete's going to sign for like maybe $23 million at most a year, and Vlad's probably going to get $450 million because there's levels to this. Pete, you're a nice ball player. You finally hit a couple clutch homers in your life. We appreciate it. It took you literally almost your last AB of the season to do it, and we appreciate it. When you're not clutch, you're not a dog, you're not a leader, you're not going to get paid, and it's good for the Mets. You're getting them cheaper. So it's less term, less AAV. It's a win-win for the Mets. I care about the name on the front of the chest. I could give a rat's ass to the name on the back. So it benefits the Mets to bring him back cheaper.
I think the thing is that Mets fans view Pete Alonso as one of the best hitters of their franchise history, and he is. He definitely is. It wasn't going to be looked at in regards to how Mets fans look at it. We've been critical this year because he has not performed to that standard. And he has been one of those guys from day one that's been very critical of this, saying, weren't you guys Pete doesn't have protection apologists? That was a bullshit narrative. And guess what? He got his protection this year. He was not able to perform to the standard that we expected him in a contract year. There's your victory if you want it, MEZ. There are obviously some concerns long term. I've talked about it before. Frank, I will go to you, and I think that this is probably where you agree with me at this current moment. When it comes to Pete Alonso, I am fine with him, and I'm fine without him. Doesn't matter what happens. Again, I'm at David Stearns, where he's really not desperate. And right now, to be honest, Pete Alonso, once again, with all of these other free agents, Pete Alonso, you're coming to Stearns. Stearns ain't coming to you. We can do this waiting game forever. And good luck if you get paid somewhere else. But right now, who is going to give him that type of money as his market continues to dwindle? Tons of teams are getting in their first baseman. It inflated this week. Let's just say that a lot of first baseman transactions went. TikTok, Pete, again, I will say it one more time. 7 years, $158 million was on the table. So listen, he took a bet, he gambled, and he lost.
I really feel like, the Christian Walker thing, once he signed, I mean, everything just like, it was so quick. I mean, so many first basemen just instantly went off the board. I mean, you were seeing stuff like within hours, especially like with the Nathaniel Lowe trade. It's like that trade happens and then like another move happens shortly after. It's like, okay, now Santana's there and Goldschmidt's already off the board. So it's come now to a point where if you're the Mets, you say, okay, right now I have an opening at first base. What are my options? There's not many left that are like actually good. And then if you're Pete Alonso, okay, I'm a free agent. What teams are available? There's not really many left that are realistic. That's the thing to keep in mind. You could look at a team and say, oh, they could use a first baseman. That should be a suitor for Pete Alonso. But it doesn't always necessarily happen that way. I mean, the guys mentioned it on the Till Mets Do Us Part podcast like earlier today. But it's like, okay, Seattle in theory makes sense as a place that should want Alonso. But money matters. Seattle's not going to pay $150 million for Pete Alonso. That's not going to happen. The St. Louis Cardinals are trying to trade Nolan Arenado because of financial reasons. They're not going to pay Pete Alonso $150 million up. So now you're looking at a situation where it's like, what team that needs a first baseman and would actually pay over $150 million? There really is not many left. So it's in a situation where mutually, for the Mets and Pete Alonso, it's a perfect match right now. I mean, that's kind of where it's at right now. It's like there's not many other first basemen left, not many other teams left. And the Mets are just, like you said, they're going to wait this out, though, because they're saying, okay, you want to offer? We have one. How about this? 7 years, $158 million. Take it or leave it. You could beat it? Go for it. Let's see it. Bring it to me. I want you to bring me the offer that is better than 7 years, $158 million, and then we could talk. Until then, that is your offer. Good luck finding it elsewhere. And that's where they're getting caught up. And I feel that just with the way Scott Boras handles this, it is going to drag on and on and on and on. I have said for a while now, and I feel like the only other alternative, and this still involves the Mets, he comes back to the Mets, like Andrew said, on a shorter deal for more AAV. they'll say, oh, I got more per year, but less years. And that also works to the Mets' advantage because you get him for these few years, and then you say once again, okay, now tell a team to sign you for multiple years when now you're almost near like 35, which then teams are really going to be reluctant to do that. So no matter what, you're in a win-win situation where it's kind of like the Soto thing, where you get the prime years, and then if the guy wants to move on elsewhere, go for it because you got the best version of them to begin with. So I feel like no matter what, it's still Mets' advantage right now as far as like leverage or negotiations because of just like, okay, well, show me the deal. I mean, show me something that is better than what we're offering you. I mean, Pete Alonso does turn 30 next season. So we're talking about the age 30 season. And that's what you're paying for. So I feel like that's where they're at. They're saying, okay, if you could beat our offer, go do it. And they have not been able to do it yet.
Here's the one thing I want to say, because this intertwines with two different things, okay? When it comes to Pete Alonso and the overall negotiations and the business side of baseball, it is not personal. It may sound like it is personal, but I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat taking it a little bit personal of some of the things that we are saying. We don't know Pete. I'm sure that you guys don't know Pete personally. All of this is tongue-in-cheek here. Sometimes it is show effect. That's just how it is. So before you're ready to bite all of our heads off, the Mets have had a lot of situations where they've had homegrown guys who maybe they've tried to retain, they've made offers to, and they ended up going elsewhere. Michael Conforto, they made him a, 5 years, $100 million contract extension. They ended up being right in the end as he was not good in 2021, ended up sitting out for 2022 with a shoulder injury, and then he ends up taking a prove-it deal with San Francisco. When it comes to Pete Alonso, obviously he's been more healthy than Michael Conforto. Different situation, but he did not have the best contract year possible compared to what he has done in our franchise, because again, he could shatter the home run record in franchise history. He's up there with one of the best hitters that this franchise has seen for a while. For 6 years, he has been a plus bat. He's been a great power bat for them. He's been one of the best hitters that they have developed in franchise history. Let's look at this from pure tools and pure value. Pete Alonso is a prolific power hitter. Overall, the contact stuff, his contact tools, at best, are slightly above average, right? Serviceable enough where he can produce enough and sustain a good amount of 120 bat. Let's just say that. The power, great raw power, 80 grade raw power, not in the level of Judge or Stanton or Yordan, but pretty damn close. Not the best fleet of foot, not a great base runner. We know that. He's not a great defensive first baseman. Has he gotten better? Sure. His range isn't great. Whatever. We know his arm ain't there. We know he doesn't have a great arm. We know that his throwing decisions are not great. So what does that leave him as? Power first baseman. I'm not going to say that he's one tool. I'm going to say he's more of a one-way first baseman. Contact and power, serviceable enough to be a power first baseman in that position. That's the type of value that you usually get from a typical first baseman. Stearns, every time, he's not going to go out of his way to go after Pete Alonso when he knows what player value is. He's not going to go out of his way because, again, he was not the guy that gave him the $158 million offer. He wasn't the GM at that point. It was Billy Epler. We don't know what his attachment is to Pete. We know that he has a price because Pete is a limited player. He is a limited first baseman. That is true. You can't tell me that he is not. You can't tell me that he is the second coming of Jesus. And once again, he is going to continue to repeat the 53 home run season that he had in 2019. It's not going to happen. This doesn't mean that we hate Pete Alonso. This doesn't mean that we never want him back. We will just let him go and we want him gone. But when it comes to Pete Alonso, fine with him, fine without him. When I'm talking about this from the standpoint is whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, they will move on from it. Obviously, the first baseman market right now is starting to trim down, and maybe they're going to run out of options if Pete ends up going elsewhere. But right now, with the overall money that he's asking, it's a match made in heaven right now. Am I laughing? Am me and Andrew laughing a little bit of how he has to kind of crawl back to us? Yes. Does that go with us kind of making fun of him and you know, busting his balls a little bit of how he rejected that money? Yes. But if he comes back here, or even if he goes elsewhere, we wish him the best. I like Pete Alonso. He's been a great part of this franchise for 6 years. But again, there's still a limit. And listen, like we've said, if we see something we don't like, we're going to point it out. We can still like Pete Alonso and not like the decision that he made. And again, the decision that he made to turn down 7 years, $158 million, it's looking like, in hindsight, a stupid one.